Hot damn, I'm up 20 bands. Bless us once again.
Welcome back to the Aubservation. We are live at the top of PubKey, the best Bitcoin bar in New York City. Come through, have a drink, spend your Bitcoin. Today we have on the show Teddy Fusaro, a good time friend. He is the president of Bitwise, former Goldman, and leading one of crypto's top firms with over 12 billion in AUM. Teddy, welcome to the show. I've known you for so long, and you're here.
I'm so happy to finally be here. Yeah, we've known each other for a long time. I feel like I've followed you starting this, all the things that you've done, and yeah, long time coming. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I remember actually the first time I met you, we were on the New York Stock Exchange. I think this was 2017, 2018, and I mean, a totally different world. And I think you were doing a Cheddar interview or something. And, you know, Bitwise was just like, you guys were known, but it's nothing like it is today.
Yeah, it was definitely 2017 or 2018. So that's like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I was 20, of course.
Yes, yeah.
And I was doing a media hit, and I think it was Cheddar. Yeah. You were there, I think, still with Lolly at the time, right? And I remember when I met you, I thought, like, right after when we met, I was like, this woman is going to be a big star. And yeah, it's true. It's true. I remember it. And now, like, it is true. And we've seen it, and you're doing it, and it's very cool. So
that's very sweet. Do you even remember what you were talking about on that day? It's so hard to even remember because, I mean, a year in Bitcoin and crypto feels like millenniums. So
yeah, I'll have to search the memory banks a little bit. But I think back then, like, most of the education we were doing was like, there is no CEO of Bitcoin. There is a supply cap.
Yeah.
There is this thing called the halving. And it was all like new in the institutional community that you were really providing like entry level education on this stuff. So it was probably that type of thing.
Yeah, I imagine it was. I remember so many of those interviews, even like Segwit, and they were like, what's going on? We were like, I don't know if anyone's even going to care, but yeah, that was so fun. But we want to start off the show with some Teddy's takes. I don't know if I can hold the mic and hold up your tweets at the same time. So we have pulled tweets of Teddy's.
Wow.
That we have here. Fun. It says, many of you have been asking for an update on Song of the Summer. We'll try to get it to you today. Did you get it to anybody? And what is the Song of the Summer?
Okay. Yeah. So this one has been fairly controversial amongst my friend group, at least. I chose the Song of the Summer as a song called Blue Strips by Jesse Murph. When I first heard the song, I did not know what a blue strip was. A blue strip is a $100 bill. This is something that the youthful generation is referring to 100.
They're teaching you about cash. Yeah. You're teaching everybody else about Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah. And I would say that, like, my friend group, we've had this thing with the Song of the Summer for several years. They're getting old. So they're like out of touch now. But I am
not like you.
No, I'm staying in touch.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew that this was the song this year.
Teddy, I listened to the song before you came. I don't have words for that song. I don't even know what to think. It sounds like she's like breathing in like some helium before she sang it. But, you know, I like that you're staying, like, I didn't even, wasn't aware. So I actually really credit you for that.
It's a little bit of a Miley Cyrus vibe.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we have the next tweet. It says flavored waters ranked. We have Lemon Perfect as number 1. Number 2, Hint Water. Number 3, Gatorade Propel. You're so much of like a beverage enthusiast. We want to know how you've gotten to these answers. Do you stand by this?
I stand by this, so much so that I brought some Lemon Perfects to the show today.
Not an ad, guys.
Not an ad, but it is delicious. Lemon Perfect's distribution is not quite as great as Propel or Hint, both of which are delicious. But my preference is the Lemon Perfect. I stand by that.
The Lemon Perfect is very good. Your second pick for Hint, terrible. I actually think
you don't like
I don't like Hint. I don't know. I had a friend who was an investor in it and had a ton in his house. And I was like, what is this? And I tried to want to drink it. Didn't like it. I don't know what's in there.
I think the blackberry hint is top
good.
flight. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I'm just had the wrong hint.
Could be. Maybe the watermelon.
Yeah. Okay. Next tweet. If the cucumber is bitter, throw it away. If there are brambles in the path, go around them. That's all you need to know. Don't demand to know why such things exist. Meditations. What's going on here?
Wow. Yeah, we took like a little bit of a hard right turn on this one. I as a habit or as a practice, something that I enjoy is reading Stoic philosophy in particular. And I think there are a lot of lessons in Stoicism in general that apply to all of our daily lives, whether you're dealing with a business issue or a relationship issue or a problem with a person or something in your personal life that you need to figure out that is hard or challenging. I find that often going back to reading some Stoic philosophy is really helpful in figuring out how to deal with those situations. And in particular, I really like this one about the cucumber and the brambles in the path. It basically says to me, if the thing that you're dealing with is something that's standing in your way, go around it. Don't complain about it. If the fruit has gone bad, throw it out. There's really nothing to be gained by lamenting the situation or by complaining about what's happening. You simply have to deal with it in basically the most obvious way possible. And I think it just, if you get in the habit of reading that stuff, or for me at least, being in the habit of reading that stuff and then applying it to the things that you have to confront and go through in your daily life, whether it's raising children. I think about it a lot, to have four beautiful kids and a beautiful wife. But if you get in the habit of thinking about those things and then you apply them, I find it really effective, for me at least.
Yeah, I imagine so, especially, being the president of Bitwise. There's so many things that you feel like can get in your way, but like the suffering of it all and getting really involved with your suffering can be a huge distraction for you. So not that Bitwise should be suffering. You guys are actually doing quite well.
Yeah. But I think totally, like, in every I think other, like, people in general don't realize every person is going through something where they're dealing with issues or they're dealing with challenges or things that they want to do, and they're all hard. They're hard for all of us. And so I think Stoic philosophy in particular sort of gives you a roadmap or a blueprint for dealing with those things. And even if things are going great at any company, you're going to be dealing with difficult decisions or keeping people happy or keeping investors happy. You know about it. You're an entrepreneur. None of it is easy. You have to make hard decisions.
I have this tweet I think I wrote one time. Do you remember when everyone was like really getting into the Roman Empire?
Yes.
I was like, they're like, we think about the Roman Empire every day. And I was like, do you think about the Roman Empire? Or are you just talking about meditations by Aurelius? Like, is that what you're actually thinking about? And people are like, yeah, that's actually, well, but maybe a little bit of both. I don't know.
It's also the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is also very accessible.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
Like a lot of other philosophy can be complicated or hard to understand. I think this stuff is very simple.
Yeah. It's perfect for the tech or finance bro.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Okay, so let's get into it. Thank you for doing Teddy's takes. We really appreciate those takes. So you joined Bitwise after a decade in TradFi, and most people who've made that jump, they've learned something along the way. What really was your big lesson coming from Wall Street that you brought to Bitwise? Yeah.
So I think early on in my career, a thing that was interesting for me, when I was in college, I had studied political science, political theory, and philosophy. I didn't have like a finance background or an economics background. I was very lucky to get a job at Goldman. I was like probably the most junior person at the firm when I started. And a couple of things in my mind, in my experience, my memory at least, really stick out. Like, on the one hand, I was kind of fascinated and amazed by the financial engineering. Like, there was so much stuff that was very much more interesting and complex than I had realized. But then there were also certain things that were ridiculously outdated and archaic. Like I was in equity derivatives, and every time you did a trade, you had to sign a paper or PDF trade confirm. Your client had to do that. And I remember feeling and thinking like there's so much upgrading that needs to happen. But I kind of I was able to understand some of the product structuring stuff. If I could like draw out a box and an arrow chart or a diagram, I could logically connect that stuff. And I was in derivatives there and was lucky enough to then get a job at another early stage asset management company. The company was pretty successful. Left to go to another one that was doing some more sophisticated stuff, and we were fortunate to have a successful exit and sell that company. And then it was during that period of time I had to stay at this large company we had sold the asset manager to, and it was during that phase I was doing a little bit of soul searching and casting around to figure out what I wanted to do next. I knew I wanted it to be a startup, and that's when I found Bitcoin. And it kind of connected all those experiences for me. The philosophy, the political theory, the structuring of derivatives and the financial engineering element of it, and the upgrading that needed to occur. And so it all like kind of felt very like natural and cohesive to me. And that's when took me up to 2018 when I joined Bitwise.
What were some turning points in building the Bitwise brand over the 8 years that you've been there?
Yeah, well, there's it's a long journey, and I think that one of the things that we have been able to do that helped us build the brand that we have and the trust that we have with our clients has been to continue to be authentic about what we care about and what we find out to be the truth. And a really good example of that is, I told you earlier, we did our first Bitcoin ETF filing in 2019. And part of that was we had to go into the SEC. It's one of the stories that actually put Bitwise on the map in the crypto community early on, because we went to go into the SEC to present for why we thought they should approve a Bitcoin ETF. And when we started the research work to go make that argument, we started looking at all of global Bitcoin volume from every single quote unquote exchange that existed in the world at that time. And it wasn't too far into that project when what we found out was that most of it was garbage. So most of the trading volume at that time that was being reported, you'd see billions of dollars of Bitcoin trading daily. We went in and we looked at each different exchange, and it was mostly garbage. And we talked a little bit earlier about making decisions and needing to figure out how you confront decisions. And when we sat down around the table and we thought about what we were going to do about that, we realized that the only thing we could do was tell the truth. And so this report that we published and then showed to our primary regulator became known as the fake volume report. And what we went in and we told the regulators was that 95% of the reported Bitcoin volume at the time was fake. That's what we told them. And we weren't really sure how that was going to play, right? Because we're a Bitcoin crypto company. We're talking about what's happening in the industry. But what we also said was that 5% that remains, it's operating very efficiently. It's actually a large market. It's tightly correlated. It's well arbitraged. It trades at a single price across all these different platforms that are doing things the right way. And guess what? The players who are doing it the right way were also struggling with this fact. The exchanges that were running a clean program were like, how do we compete with these people who are claiming they've got all this volume and there's just not any there? And then they were attracting users that they were scamming. It was a bad scene. And so what we ended up doing was not just creating a reputation for ourselves as truth tellers, but also helping out all of the other folks who are doing things the right way. And I think it reminds me a little bit of what you announced yesterday and what you're doing with Halcyon, which is helping companies and people to understand how to authentically tell the story that they have to tell about what they're trying to do as a business. And I think that was like a cultural moment for us and a part of building our brand, where we learned that what we do as a business is we pursue the truth, we try to tell the truth, and we educate people about what's happening in the industry.
There's some solid numbers there, and it just needs to be told. I think the industry can stand on its own, and we don't need this fluff. We don't need this exaggeration. We don't need the fanfare and the celebrities and the stadiums and all of it. And yeah, I really appreciate you saying that because it's true, and that's the story we want to tell. So this episode of The Aubservation is brought to you by Cake Wallet, the non-custodial crypto wallet that puts you in control. In a world where crypto can feel complicated and intimidating, Cake Wallet makes managing your digital assets simple, secure, and stress-free. You can easily store, send, receive, and swap Bitcoin, Monero, and more. Cake Wallet is built for anyone who values privacy, convenience, and control in their crypto journey. Ready to take charge? Download Cake Wallet on the Apple Store or Google Play. You were COO, and then now you're president, and Bitwise has grown so much. It grew AUM by 7x in 6 months during the time that you were COO. What's the biggest operational risk in a moment like that? I know, when culture and things can change in a company really fast or just structure, like what did you kind of feel was like the biggest hurdle for you?
Well, two things. It's people and then service providers. Like if you think about like the days back when we met in 2017 or 18, like there were really no professional service providers at the time. Now, like we work with Bank of New York and KPMG, and Coinbase is a publicly traded company, and Fidelity has a big business, and the big 4 audit firms are all in the space. And so I remember feeling very much like in the early days, like who do you work with that you can trust on the other side of all of the things that you need to do? And then how do you find and develop real, good, honest people who can understand these new things? Because one of the things that I think we confront in our industry a lot in hiring and developing people is that there's just, unlike finance or insurance or like car sales, pick an industry, there's not a talent pool of like thousands of people who have combined aggregated decades of experience. It just doesn't exist. So you need to find people who have relevant experience in whatever industry they've been working in and are genuinely interested in the space and want to learn about it and can then apply those skills to the industry that we're in. And so I think those are the two things. And we've had problems with service providers over the years too, right? Like you think about all the issues that we had in 2022 and exchange issues that we've had throughout the long history of crypto. So like being really careful and cognizant about who you work with, I think is important, not just in people, but in terms of companies as well.
It's really hard to keep that quality. I mean, it's just, and also finding the people who do have that genuine interest. I feel like I like to say like no one is a full expert in crypto unless you're really a dev in some ways, but there's people who've just been in it for a long time. And so there's like that sort of distinction in all of it. And it's like, if you're willing and interested and passionate, then you're going to be fine.
Well, totally. I mean, I don't know if you have this experience, but I have the experience of learning new things every day about crypto. And this is one of the things I think is so fascinating and fun and interesting about working in the industry. Like there's new things to learn every day.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn about the protocols, about the software, about what's happening with upgrades to the software, new protocols. It's just a lot to take in.
So something you've been talking about recently on Twitter, which I find interesting, bridging that Wall Street to crypto, is tokenized stocks.
Yeah.
And so do you think this is like a game changer? Do you think this is going to be great? Or is this just sort of a way for Wall Street to kind of like still have like a foot in the door? You know what I mean?
Aubrey, I think it is huge. I think it is, and I think it's a lot bigger than people realize. So
explain it to the people who are new to tokenized stocks, perhaps.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like as with a lot of the things that we do, it's like it can be a little difficult to talk about it without going too deep into the details. But let me try. Let me put it this way. So like when I started at Goldman, the equity swaps business is basically a business of providing leverage, providing financing to big clients. It could be corporate clients, primarily hedge funds, whatever. Maybe you can, one of the things I was amazed by is you can get $100 million worth of exposure to Apple stock if you have $5 or $10 million to put down, right? Like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. It is. Prime brokerage businesses, the big prime brokers probably do like $3 to $4 billion a year in revenue each in their prime brokerage business. This is primarily lending, giving leverage to clients, lending stocks so that hedge funds and other clients can short them. The like TLDR of what I think the combination of tokenized stocks and perpetual futures that offer leverage to users in a decentralized way is that it unbundles that stack. Is very opaque. It belongs to Wall Street, like deep in Wall Street. Even clients, the most sophisticated clients, don't fully understand all the ways that the banks make money on this stuff. Like, go ask some Wall Street guy like how borrow rates on stocks are determined. Like the foremost experts on it, they're arguing with their brokers right now about how much they're paying on borrows. If we can do that, tokenize all the stocks, have people be able to use stocks to get leverage to the same thing and use the cash that they have otherwise, that unbundles that whole model. And it's not just for hedge funds now. Like you can do it, I can do it. We can all do that. And I think that is the thing that I see that is very disruptive for the traditional models.
Do you think that will be a narrative for this next cycle? You know, tokenized stocks, do you think Bitcoin treasuries? It feels like there's always something that leads it. As we've lived through multiple cycles, there's always like a few narratives that are pushing us forward or propelling the industry forward. What do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that, like, you know, if I post about that stuff on Twitter, if we talk to clients about it, oftentimes they'll be like, yeah, sure, but there's like $40 million worth of stocks that are tokenized, and the 3 projects that are out haven't done anything. So I think it's going to take a little while. Like, the thing that I'm talking about is like a major business disruptor from some of the biggest companies in the world. I don't know if it's going to happen in this cycle. But I do think the big players are starting to get it. They're starting to understand that. So I think that's happening. I just don't know if this cycle that the things that I'm talking about are going to happen. I think it's a little ways away.
Teddy's too early. He's too early, as always. He's too early.
Just like with the lemon waters.
With the lemon waters, these will pop off. We're not going to be able to get them. This is why you can't tell people.
Yes, and the blue strips.
And the blue strips. Yeah. Sure, and the blue strips.
You just got to give it a couple more listens.
Teddy's big on cash, is what he's saying. He's pushing cash. Let's talk about BitB. One of the top 25 fastest growing ETFs of all time. How does that feel?
It's exciting. We at Bitwise are all really excited about it. The history is also kind of one that's near and dear to our hearts and is kind of fun for us. We first filed for a Bitcoin ETF in 2019. So finally, 5 years later, we got one. It was a really long journey. I think that if people look at like the list of the Bitcoin ETF issuers, they're like, oh yeah, like BlackRock, that makes sense. Fidelity, of course. And they're like, oh, like Bitwise is on the list of the largest ETF issuer, Bitcoin ETF issuers. How did that happen? And so yeah, we're very proud of it. We're very excited about it. And I think that there are a number of reasons that we've gotten ourselves into that position, but one of them is just because we've been planning for it and wanting it and working very hard on it for a very long time.
Well, congratulations. It's been such a huge on-ramp for so many people. And it's interesting now. We've talked about on-ramps, mass adoption in nauseam for years. Do you think ETFs are the way, or do you think self-custody sort of, still has its own moment in the sun?
Yeah, big question, and something that we've talked about a lot and thought about a lot, both personally and at Bitwise more broadly. Let me answer it this way. I think that in the current, like the world that I was describing, where people can have tokenized stocks, use them as collateral to get leverage, take cash out, use leverage for other things, everything's happening on chain. I think the reality is that world doesn't exist yet. The world that exists is one in which, for most of the investors in the United States, but also more broadly, for most of those people, the way to access Bitcoin, because it's the way that they run and manage the rest of their financial life, is through a traditional brokerage account. And that's why Bitcoin ETF was such a massive watershed moment in the industry. We like to say that it was Bitcoin's IPO moment, because it became the moment in time when your uncle or your cousin or like the rich person down the street who has a financial advisor could finally add Bitcoin to their portfolio without having to do something that was outside of their existing financial life. Download an app, go figure out how to use a wallet. It became the easy button for getting access to the marketplace. And so I think like we can talk about what may happen in 5 or 10 years and whether or not self-custody or Bitcoin ETF or tokenized ETFs that now go back on chain are the thing that will be a part of the future. But there's no question that for now, the ETF has become the main way for most investors to get access to our market.
I guess I just sort of wonder too with Bitcoin, is the gap widening in a way because half the country doesn't even own stocks. There's so many people that are just holding cash in, a checking account. People don't own anything. And so it's like now that we're getting so many instruments that can get people on-ramped, does it leave someone who may just want to figure out how to buy Bitcoin, say on, some random exchange or something like that? Are we leaving people out slowly, or do we, that who don't have a brokerage, who have never used any of that before? It's just an interesting thing to think about for Bitcoin specifically, because stocks have always been that way.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. But I think that the other alternative still exists, right? Nobody needs to get permission to download a wallet, to use software, to access a decentralized exchange. I expect that to grow. I expect that the philosophical element of open access for all to be something that grows more. I just think it still needs time. Yeah.
And it's also a little generational. You got to help the boomers and Gen X get through the wave of ETFs. And it's like a little funny, but it's also just true. They feel more comfortable having a wealth manager handle that for them. And it feels nice.
It does. And this is, so Bitwise's primary distribution channel for selling our products and marketing our ETFs and other funds is the financial advisor channel, where typically the mass affluent in this country and in the Western world, they have a financial advisor who helps build their portfolio and helps oversee their wealth and their investments. A big part of the conversation that is happening with financial advisors right now is the generational wealth transfer. Mm-hmm. Most of the rich people in this country are in their 60s and 70s, and they will be transferring that wealth to millennials. That's, there's the skip generation. You have Generation X, you have the millennials. I'm a Zoomer, but that's like what is happening. And the financial advisors need to understand what the millennials care about, what they want in their portfolios. And millennials have now grown up and started to experience their financial lives, the things that they care about. And a lot of them are into Bitcoin. Is a thing that is going to compound. And there's a limited supply of Bitcoin, like we talked about.
Totally. And being internet native, I think, just it's a behavioral thing. I think it makes millennials just apt to want to invest in that. That feels natural, like an internet asset. Oh yeah, of course. Something that just never made sense for other generations. And I think in some level that's fine. And that's why we have ETFs.
Right.
So it's great. The SEC reversed approval on your Crypto 10 index. What happened behind the scenes? I don't know if you can talk about it, but I just kind of wanted to see if we could get a background on like the hold up on the index style ETPs.
Yeah, I can. I need to be cautious with what I say, but I'm good at I'm comfortable with walking that line. So the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund is our first and flagship product. We opened that fund in 2017. It has traded for the last several years as effectively a closed-end trust on the OTCQX market, which is like the old pink sheets for any of your listeners that are familiar with the old pink sheets. We have applied, or the New York Stock Exchange has applied to have that uplisted as a full ETF, operating the same way as BITB and other ETFs do. It got the staff of the SEC approved it, and then that approval got pulled for a review by the full commission. It wasn't until last night that the new chair, Paul Atkins at the SEC, or the new chairman of the SEC, they issued a statement approving a bunch of things. Several things happened last night, and which is why this conversation is topical. And one of the things that they did was they said that they were opening a short-term review period for this specific product, and that there will then be a short period of time of public comment period, and we're optimistic about what will happen after that period ends.
So we want to move a little bit to crypto meets politics. I have so much to talk about here. I know we have in a new administration, everyone feels really excited. We feel like we've had so many headwinds. You know, we're having the largest super PAC. We've gotten our first piece of legislation passed, the Genius Act on stablecoins. And so I kind of want to get your take on how you see the next 4 years playing out. What do you think of the industry? Do you feel like we've sort of matured into the right spot, and what do you sort of foresee?
Yeah, and I know you have things to say here too from following you and interested for you to riff a little bit also, Aubrey. But yeah, I think one thing that characterized the preceding 4 years was it was just so hard to do anything. It really felt like we were being, as an industry, isolated and targeted. And it was sad. It was like personally sad to me because like we've been working, like I said, on getting new things approved since 2019. We maybe started a little bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but like we went down to, remember the whole come in and register, come in and talk to us. We really, really tried that. And like we attempted over and over.
It was like they put a cheese under like a little trap for us, and we were like mice, and they're like, come in and register. Yeah. And then they're like, now we're going to file an investigation on your company and like give you so many legal fees for the next several years. Like,
right. And it was perverse too, because then oftentimes the companies in crypto that tried to do that were told no, or were punished in some way. And then you had these other players who didn't ask permission, didn't try to do things the right way, did whatever they wanted to do, and maybe got away with it for a number of years and got off with like a relatively small fine. So it's just like not what anyone who I think like would objectively look at the situation and say this is a good program to be running. And I feel like there were a number of times when I'd be down in DC having these conversations, and the thing that I would say is this is both bad policy and bad politics, because it's not going to stop in 2 years or 4 years. The technology is too powerful. It's too strong. It's sort of like the internet. Like it's not going to stop. And so the policy is bad because other countries are growing. The good guys are getting in trouble and trying to do things and not allowed to do it. So you're letting the bad guys do stuff. And then the politics are going to turn. And that's just like exactly what happened. Right. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. I was sort of as my dad's like a U.S. history teacher and civics. It's like the way we get things passed in this country is executive orders, bills, and amendments. And I always compare it to like a pebble, rock, and a boulder of like how hard it is to move and to undo something, right? Because when administrations shift, you can come in and just basically on executive orders, EOs, you can just sign things away and it's gone immediately. And finally, we have an actual rock, which is harder to undo, piece of law on stablecoins. So that's really good and that's exciting. So I just don't want the industry to rest on its laurels. I don't want it to feel like, oh, we've gotten a win and everything can be okay, because it can go back.
Yes.
And I want people to know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so. I think that you're absolutely right. And that's the important next phase of this, is that more needs to be legislatively enacted. We need more of those rocks that need to be harder to undo, even though they're not impossible to undo. Yeah. But we need to get more legislation done so that it will be the law of the land, at least for the foreseeable future. It's much harder to undo those things. The executive order is someone else could come in on day one and reverse it. I don't think that's going to happen. Because I think that the industry is going to grow now that we're actually embracing crypto here and encouraging its growth responsibly domestically. I think it's probably in the next 2.5 years, 3 years, going to be too much growth to try to like do a full 180 again.
Yeah.
But I still think now, like, the next important thing, we saw it with Genius, hopefully we'll see it again with Clarity, is actually getting laws passed through Congress. And a thing that I worry a little bit about is making sure that the industry doesn't like tear each other's throats out because they're antagonistic about competing business priorities and put their own, each company putting their own interests before what is good for the industry.
For the whole,
Something I worry about a little bit.
I worry about the partisanness of it, and I hope that just money, blue strips aren't partisan.
See?
The internet's not partisan. So I just hope that we don't become that either just because it's been easy or we find people that agree with us. It should be something that isn't just a talking point, I hope, which is my fear. We did see a 160-page crypto report drop today by the White House. I know it happened right before you came here, so I know you had total time to digest it all and spit it back out, regurgitate it to us. So I just wanted to know, do you have any initial thoughts on the report?
I think it's just not just the report, but the interactions we have with our regulators in private, the interactions that are the self-regulatory organizations that we work with that like the stock exchanges that need to work with the regulators to get things done. What I would say is that it's just an absolute 180-degree turn from where it was 9 months ago in the prior administration. Before, we were literally talking about having conversations where the energy was like, how can we say no to this thing that you're asking for?
Yeah.
And now the conversation, as demonstrated by the report that the White House just released this afternoon, is how can we find a way to create rules, sandboxes, guidance, regulatory structures that allow entrepreneurs and businesses to attempt to develop and grow this new technology in the US. And that's really exciting. That's really exciting. And I think it's not like it's not just about, wow, that's best for Bitwise or that's good for the price of Bitcoin. I think it is both. But I think it's really, like, to me, this is a powerful new technology that will change a lot about how our financial system works, how people invest, how existing old broken down financial systems get taken down and get replaced with new things. So I think it's really like an important thing that our country, our technology, our financial entrepreneurs are working on. So I'm very optimistic about that.
I'm excited to really digest it later. A few friends sent it to me, so I'm gonna parse through it. Bitwise tickers, BitB, BitW, BitQ. Where can people find you? Where can people come get these Teddy takes that they can't always find on the Aubservation?
Yes. Well, hopefully a lot of people will watch the show. I think it's been a lot of fun. I'm on Twitter at TeddyFuse, Fuse. I'm on LinkedIn. A lot of people, I have a lot of interaction on LinkedIn. A lot of financial advisors and other professionals are on LinkedIn, obviously.
I wanted to get your elevator pitch on Connecticut.
Oh.
Because if you don't know Teddy's takes, he's a Connecticut man.
Yes. I'm a Connecticut bull. I love Connecticut. Connecticut gives you close enough proximity to the city where you can experience the culture. You can come in for dinner, you come in for a show, you can come in for the museums, you can go to a baseball game. But you're also far enough away that you have the bucolic country life. You can go to Long Island Sound. You can go for a hike. It's a nice place to raise kids. I love Connecticut.
I saw you on the beach with that grinder, and I was just like, wow, Teddy he's gotten life. He's figured it out. He's figured it out.
I think it's one of the great combos. If you live in Connecticut, you can come in here, you can be in the city, you can even come down south of 42nd Street.
Exactly. Downtown.
And then you can be, in the evening, you can be outside looking at the trees in the fall. It's particularly nice.
So nice. I thought that the best combo you were going to say is like the grinder on the beach, like sandwich in with chips inside on the beach. I don't think there's many better pleasures in this world.
Yeah. You have to open the sandwich and then place the chips inside it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that you also said it's like your carb day of the week or whatever. It's so good. Teddy's tweets are the best. Everyone I talk to is like, I love Teddy's takes. He's always talking about something. He's on to something. So go follow him there. Teddy, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on The Observation, and you'll be back, right?
Sure, I will definitely be back. Thank you so much. It's been so much fun to be with you.
Thank you. And we'll be back next time.
Hot damn, I'm up 20 bands. Blessings once again.